I mean, just imagine taking a high-profile job to fix a failing multi-million-dollar sporting institution.
Right, a total rebuild.
Exactly. You do the research, you identify the absolute perfect manager to turn the culture around, and you make the hire. But then, before the ink can even dry, your organization's president steps in and vetoes the entire deal.
Wow.
And the reason? Because of a foreign ambassador's tweet and this massive international geopolitical crisis.
It sounds made up.
It really does. But that is exactly what triggered a completely wild 10-day institutional meltdown in Italian football.
Shit.
And, well, we have the complete anatomy of how it all happened today.
It is, it's a staggering sequence of events. When you actually look at the source material we are working with today,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got an 11-page outgoing manifesto. We have these fiery resignation letters from absolute legends of the sport and a minute-by-minute timeline of this management collapse. It
Yeah.
reads way more like a political thriller than, a sports administrative update.
Completely. So today's mission for this deep dive is it's split right down the middle. For the first half, we are unpacking exactly why Italy's managerial dream team fell apart in just over 2 weeks.
Just a total collapse.
Yeah. And then for the second half, we're taking that same analytical lens to the global transfer market. We have a massive ledger of confirmed and pending transfer news, and we're going to break down all the hidden strategies, the bizarre administrative red tape, and these multi-club conglomerate maneuvers dictating where all the top talent is moving this summer.
It really is a perfect pairing for a deep dive, honestly. You have this complete structural dismantling of a national federation, right? Followed by the frantic, highly capitalized rebuilding of club teams across Europe.
Absolutely. And we are doing this for you, the listener, because whether you're just fascinated by the boardroom chess matches of international football, or you just want to understand the tactical mechanisms behind your favorite club's newest signing, this is your ultimate cheat sheet.
You'll definitely be the most well-informed person in your group chat by the end of this.
No doubt. So let's start with the foundation of failure in Italy. Before we get into the 10 days of chaos, we really have to look at the structural rot that triggered it all. And that begins with Italy failing to qualify for their third straight World Cup after losing to Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Yeah, that playoff loss was really the final domino for head coach Gennaro Gattuso. He just immediately exited the program. But the real institutional earthquake that came from the outgoing president of the Italian Football Federation, or FIGC, Gabriele Gravina.
Right, because he didn't just quietly leave.
Oh, not at all. He published this scathing 11-page manifesto detailing exactly why Italian football is collapsing. And the data he points to, it isn't just about bad luck on the pitch. It points to this massive systemic failure to modernize.
The youth development numbers in that manifesto are genuinely shocking to read. Gravina highlighted that Italy currently ranks 49th out of 50 monitored European leagues for the percentage of minutes played by under 21 players.
It's terrible.
It's a microscopic 1.9%. Like, if you aren't playing 19-year-olds in high-stakes matches, they just aren't making the mistakes necessary to adapt to the speed of the professional game.
Yeah, and speed really is the operative word there, because Gravina's data on physical metrics is equally damning. I mean, the average ball speed in Italy's Serie A is 7.6 meters per second.
Which sounds fast until you compare it.
Exactly. When you contrast that with the Champions League average of 10.4 meters per second, you instantly understand the problem.
Yeah.
The Italian game is quite literally operating in a different temporal reality. The players are being trained to process decisions and move the ball at a speed that renders them entirely obsolete when they step into top-tier European competition.
I look at that 1.9% youth metric and that 7.6 meters per second ball speed, and I can't help but compare the Italian football system to a classic antique sports car.
Okay, I like that.
Like, it has this beautiful legendary history, and it looks incredible parked in a museum, right? But the engine hasn't been updated in 40 years.
Yeah.
And now, out on the track, it is literally getting lapped by modern, hyper-efficient machines.
That's a great way to put it.
But a new engine costs money, which brings us to Gravina's financial grievances.
Right. So Gravina heavily criticized the Italian government for this massive funding gap. He pointed out that while events like the Milan-Cortina Winter Olympics receive multi-billion-dollar state backing, the Football Federation is just left fighting for scraps.
Yeah, completely stifling any necessary infrastructure projects.
Exactly. So to fix this, he proposed some radical financial mechanisms in his manifesto, primarily lifting the ban on betting advertisements to inject fresh commercial revenue and reinstating during the growth decree.
And just to clarify that mechanism for you listening, the growth decree was essentially this massive tax break for foreign professionals.
Yeah.
It allowed Italian clubs to offer highly competitive net salaries to top talent because the gross tax burden on the club was effectively cut in half.
Right.
Taking that away artificially deflated the financial leverage of Italian clubs. So that is the grim, broke-down landscape. Following Gattuso's exit and Gravina's resignation, the FIGC brings in the mechanics. On July 11th, they appoint Paolo Maldini as technical director and Leonardo as advisor.
Absolute legends.
Yeah, and their very first move was to try and hire Pep Guardiola. And I really want to get into this because there's a huge misconception in the sources going around that the FIGC just couldn't afford him.
Yeah, that is a really critical point to correct. According to the detailed source breakdown we have, Guardiola's rejection had absolutely zero to do with money or the FIGC's wage caps.
Interesting.
It was entirely an ideological and lifestyle rejection based on three specific factors. First, coming off his highly demanding tenure at Manchester City, he is insisting on a rigid 12-month sabbatical to mentally rebuild.
Makes sense.
Second, he is prioritizing time with his wife and family, completely stepping away from the daily media pressure cooker.
Wait, I actually have to challenge that logic a bit, though. If he wants more free time with his family, isn't a national team job the ultimate life hack?
How do you mean?
Well, you have drastically fewer matches, you aren't managing 25 egos every single morning at a training ground, and you get massive gaps between international breaks. Why wouldn't that appeal to him?
It's a really great question, and it actually leads perfectly to his third and most important reason for declining. Guardiola has a deep technical skepticism about the fundamental structure of national team management.
Okay.
For a tactical obsessive like him, fewer training days isn't a benefit, it's a structural nightmare.
Because he can't drill the tactics into them.
Exactly. His entire philosophy of positional play relies on autonomic responses. He builds those responses through hundreds of meticulous, highly repetitive training sessions throughout a 9-month season.
Right, which you don't get with a national team.
No, when you manage a national team, you get the players for maybe 4 days before a crucial qualifier. You simply cannot install a highly complex, micromanaged tactical system in 96 hours. The job is just structurally incompatible with how he understands the sport.
That makes total sense. He's an architect, and national team management only gives you time to be an interior decorator.
Spot on.
So Guardiola is out. Maldini and Leonardo pivot to their plan B, the legendary Andrea Pirlo. And this is exactly where the 10-day timeline of absolute management chaos officially detonates.
Yeah, Maldini and Leonardo didn't just view Pirlo as a fallback either. They had a preliminary agreement to build a long-term project around him. But that deal was abruptly frozen and ultimately vetoed by the FIGC president, Giovanni Malago.
And the catalyst for that veto is fascinating because it blends sports regulation with heavy geopolitics. Pirlo held a commercial partnership as a global ambassador for FonBet, which is a Russian betting company.
And we have to look at the layers of why that was deemed unacceptable. On a purely regulatory level, Italy has the 2018 Decreto Dignità, the Dignity Decree, which strictly bans gambling sponsorships in sports.
Right.
But while that legal framework provided the official grounds, the real institutional panic came from the political optics.
And just to pause here for you listening, we are reporting this impartially, directly from the source material. We are not endorsing any viewpoints regarding the ongoing war in Ukraine, Russia, or Pirlo's personal defense that his contract was strictly a commercial sports endeavor. We are solely analyzing the structural mechanics of why this veto happened.
Right, and the mechanical reality is that the FIGC deemed the reputational burden of that Russian connection far too high amidst the current geopolitical climate. And then the crisis compounded significantly when the Russian ambassador to Italy, Alexei Paramanov, publicly defended Pirlo's partnership. I mean, the moment a foreign ambassador is weighing in on your national team's coaching hire on social media, the Federation is dealing with a diplomatic headache they simply do not want. So Malago killed the deal to protect the institutional image.
I mean, imagine being Maldini or Leonardo in that moment. You take this massive job to save a failing organization. You pick a progressive young coach to lead the rebuild. And your president vetoes the hire immediately because of a foreign ambassador's intervention and a betting sponsorship.
Yeah, it completely undermines your authority.
So naturally, they walked.
They did. They resigned in protest on July 27th. That is just 16 days after they were appointed.
Unbelievable.
And Maldini released a blistering departure statement. He actually said, "We will remain at this low level as long as Malaga is president." It is a textbook example of a total leadership vacuum.
Let's just summarize this staggering 10-day timeline for a second.
Yeah.
On July 11th, Maldini and Leonardo were hired. They miss on Guardiola. They agree with Pirlo. Then by July 26th, Malaga blocks the Pirlo deal over the Fonbet ties. On July 27th, Maldini and Leonardo resign.
Yep.
Which leads to the ultimate shocker on July 28th to resolve the chaos. Roberto Mancini, who quit the team in 2023 for Saudi Arabia, is shockingly brought back as head coach. And Claudio Ranieri takes over Maldini's spot as technical director.
It represents a complete ideological retreat. I mean, they attempted to modernize the system, hit a wall of political and regulatory friction, and immediately retreated to the safety of legacy figures.
It's an incredible story of dysfunction. But while the managerial chaos in Italy has finally found an uneasy resolution, the global player transfer market is operating at maximum velocity right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And what's fascinating is that the exact same themes of regulatory red tape and domino effect planning we just saw in Italy are dictating how clubs are spending hundreds of millions of dollars. So let's transition into the transfer ledger, starting with a massive, volatile shuffle among goalkeepers.
The movement between the posts is unprecedented this window. In the Premier League, James Trafford is moving from Manchester City to Leeds United for a club record package of £40 million.
And Leeds didn't just want him, they were backed into a corner. Our sources note that Leeds suffered the bizarre misfortune of losing 3 starting caliber goalkeepers simultaneously.
Insane luck.
Right. I want to look at the tactical fallout of that. Like, if you are a modern manager who demands playing out from the back, your goalkeeper is basically your central defensive midfielder in possession. Losing 3 of them isn't just a depth issue. It completely fractures your team's build-up geometry right before the season starts.
Oh, that's a defensive catastrophe. The entire back four relies on micro-adjustments based on the goalkeeper's specific distribution range, their weak foot ability, their vocal commands. Dropping a new £40 million variable into that system, that takes months of live match calibration.
Yeah.
And the goalkeeper dominoes are falling everywhere. Carl Rushworth, fresh off a Golden Glove season, he leaves Brighton for Coventry City for £30 million. Chelsea is loaning Philip Jorgensen out to their sister club, Strasbourg.
And then you have the fascinating leverage play surrounding Zion Suzuki at Parma. Paris Saint-Germain wants him, but they are treating him strictly as a future asset with 0 guarantees of starting minutes.
Right.
That feels like a massive miscalculation of leverage by PSG, especially knowing Juventus has Suzuki circled as their absolute top target.
However, Juventus can only pull the trigger on Suzuki if they fail to land Emi Martinez from Aston Villa. So Suzuki is just trapped in a holding pattern his entire career trajectory, currently dependent on a separate negotiation between 2 entirely different clubs.
Speaking of Aston Villa, we just spent the first half of this deep dive dissecting how Italian regulations blocked Andrea Pirlo. Well, administrative red tape isn't just an Italian problem.
Definitely not.
Aston Villa attempted to bring in Chelsea striker Nicholas Jackson on loan, and it was entirely blocked by Premier League legislation.
This is a perfect example of how sporting directors basically have to be legal experts now. The Premier League has strict anti-hoarding rules that limit a club to having only 1 player on loan from another specific Premier League team at any given time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and because Aston Villa already has Alejandro Garnacho on loan from Chelsea, the Jackson deal is legally impossible.
So you can have the money, you can have the player's agreement, and the fine print still kills the deal. It's crazy. And while Chelsea is loaning players out, they're also shocking the market by bringing in serious veteran presence. They signed striker Danny Welbeck to a 2-year deal and brought in former Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson.
When a club with a highly capitalized youth project suddenly pivots to signing players like Welbeck and Henderson, it is a glaring admission that their dressing room lacks foundational leadership.
Yeah.
They aren't just buying players, they are buying cultural anchors.
We're seeing veterans dictate terms elsewhere, too. Former Manchester City defender John Stones officially joins Inter Milan on a 2-year deal worth €4 million a season, notably rejecting Juventus in the process.
Big move.
Yeah, and former Man United striker Javier Chicharito Hernandez is heading to the U.S., agreeing to terms with Atletico Dallas. And then there's Takehiro Tomiyasu.
Tomiyasu is a really fascinating case study in player psychology. The former Arsenal defender is currently on trial at Crystal Palace. What makes this remarkable is that he is holding 2 firm, guaranteed contract proposals from clubs in Italy.
So he is literally risking millions in guaranteed Italian money just for the chance to prove he can still survive in the Premier League ecosystem. That is an incredible bet on himself.
It really is.
All right, let's round out our 50-50 split by looking at the massive cash injections and strategic multi-club maneuvers dominating the youth and elite markets. Starting at the very top, Arsenal is internally exploring a blockbuster move for Real Madrid's Vinicius Junior.
We really need to contextualize this carefully, though. There are absolutely no club-to-club negotiations happening, but the idea of acquiring him has secured internal approval at every level of Arsenal's hierarchy.
It's like planning a corporate hostile takeover,
Yeah.
or like window shopping for a private jet.
Yeah.
It is one thing for the board of directors to unanimously agree that acquiring a rival's flagship asset would be amazing for the portfolio.
Right.
It is an entirely different reality to figure out the financial mechanics required to trigger release clauses that Real Madrid specifically designed to be untouchable. It's ambition bordering on fantasy.
Exactly. Other elite clubs are making much more definitive choices. Like Barcelona has completely abandoned their pursuit of Bournemouth's rising star, Eli Junior Krupi, reallocating all those resources to focus entirely on Julian Alvarez.
Interesting pivot.
Yeah, and meanwhile at Bayern Munich, Luis Diaz has officially ended the speculation, confirming he is staying and rejecting highly lucrative advances from Al Hilal.
While the established superstars hold their ground, the financial volume in the youth market is just staggering. Borussia Dortmund, a club whose entire economic model relies on identifying wonderkids, splashes 33 million euros on Greek prospect Kostas Karetsas from Genk.
Huge money for a prospect.
Over at Manchester City, Savinho has formally demanded to leave for consistent playing time, which immediately puts Tottenham on high alert. And AS Monaco secures French striker Matthis Abline from Nantes for a massive 25 million euros plus add-ons.
But if you really want to understand the true underlying economics of the youth market, you have to look at Trabzonspor signing Belgian striker René Matongo from Standard Liège. The upfront fee is a modest 2.5 million euros, but the deal includes a critical 20% sell-on clause for any future profit.
And why is that specific mechanism so important for a club like Standard Liège?
Because for a developmental club, that 20% equity stake in a player's future transfer isn't just a bonus. It acts as an insurance policy for their operating budget.
I see.
If Matongo develops into a 50 million euro player in 3 years, Standard Liège receives a massive cash injection without having to pay his wages during his developmental peak.
That's smart.
Very. And AZ Alkmaar executed a similar masterstroke, securing 18-year-old Bayer Leverkusen center back Andrea Natali for just 2 million euros, locking him down until 2031 and beating out heavy Italian interest.
It's essentially venture capitalism applied to human potential. We also have to talk about the conglomerates. The Citigroup network is aiming to bring Brazilian talent Haider from Palmeiras over to Troyes in France.
This highlights the power of the multi-club ownership model perfectly. Troyes isn't just a football team in this context.
Right.
They operate almost like a holding company for the Citigroup's assets.
Right.
They can acquire Haider, let him acclimatize to European football in a lower stakes environment, and then either integrate him into Manchester City later or just sell him for a massive centralized profit.
It's a closed-loop economic system. Wrapping up the ledger with some strategic loans and extensions. Napoli loans Jesper Lindstrom to Schalke for the season. Ajax secures Wolves striker Tolu Arokodare on a loan, featuring a 22 million euro permanent purchase option.
And interestingly, Arokodare rejected immediate offers from Turkey and Italy because the Ajax developmental system is just too appealing to turn down.
Makes sense. In terms of securing current assets, Manchester City locks down Josko Gvardiol until June 2031, and Nottingham Forest extends Ibrahim Sangai to June 2029. Oh, and a late addition breaking on the ledger. AEK Athens has reached a verbal agreement to sign Croatian midfielder Lovro Major from Wolfsburg for around 6 million euros.
You know, when you step back and look at this entire deep dive from the granular details of the transfer market to the geopolitical explosion in Italy, it raises a really provocative question about the future of the sport.
Yeah.
We just watched Andrea Pirlo lose a managerial job over geopolitical betting optics. We watched Aston Villa's squad building get blocked by the fine print of loan limits. We are watching conglomerates like the Citigroup shuffle assets across continents using holding clubs. Are we rapidly entering an era where international lawyers, politicians, and multi-club executives have far more tangible influence over a team's success than the managers drawing up tactics on a whiteboard?
Wow. That is an incredibly compelling thought to leave on. The game is being played with legal briefs in the boardroom just as fiercely as it is with a ball on the pitch.
No.
Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation today. We really hope we proved that diving deep into the structural mechanics of the sport doesn't have to feel like reading a textbook.
Definitely not.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, please hit that like button and subscribe to the show to ensure you never miss an exploration like this one.
We'll be back next time with another stack of sources and a new set of mechanics to unpack.
Until then, just remember, whether it's an antique sports car stalling out on the track or a 10-day high-speed collision of management egos, sometimes the most important game is the one happening behind closed doors. Catch you next time.